Welcome back. And they're back. After 74 days living under extreme weather conditions with temperatures dropping below -40 degrees Celsius, they are back. Penn Hadow and his team trekked more than 269 miles in the Arctic in an expedition to monitor the effects of climate change, those dreaded words, on sea ice. They join us now to tell us more about this icy adventure. Penn, Anne and Martin, welcome all of you to the proceedings. So what was the mission, Penn?
The mission was to use our unusual skills in being able to travel on the sea ice to measure the thickness of the sea ice that floats on the Arctic Ocean around the North Pole, which cannot be done by any other means as accurately.
Really?
Yeah, you'd think satellites could and submarines, but they're all estimates. All they can generate is estimates, and they wanted to know, the scientists wanted to know exactly how thick it was.
How thick it was?
Yes.
And the texture as well?
Not so much. Well, we were looking at the thickness of the snow that covers the ice on top, and the thickness of the ice below, and also the density of the snow and the ice below. So those are the sort of the four combinations or factors that we were looking at. And
what part of the team were you? You were a closely knit team for 74 days?
I was the navigator and the pathfinder, so I was out front finding the way north as far as possible, and just finding a route through all the obstacles, the open water, the high ridges, and making sure we went as far north as possible.
Were there moments of danger too?
Absolutely. You're in a very dynamic environment. The ice moves, there's thin ice and open water, so we had to cross quite a lot of areas where the ice was no thicker than 4 inches and go across the top. So it's key that you get it right and you don't sort of take the team over something that will break when they're halfway across.
And so which is more, Martin, which is more serious, ice shrinking or ice thinning?
I'm not quite sure. I'll have to ask the scientists what will have the greater impact of that. Well, more ice the better, whether it's thicker or broader.
Yeah. Do you think that, Penn?
Yes, I think the satellites are really good at telling us the area that the ice is occupying. So that's not really in debate at all, and it's been losing roughly 11% per decade over the last 3 or 4 decades. But what the satellites can't tell us is the thickness, and that's where our skills really come into play. We were literally drilling through the ice every day, up to 10 holes on a selected ice flow, and we have.
Oh yes, you were supposed to have equipment that could do it, but you had to go back to sort of with your bare hands, yeah?
Well, we had the mother of all drills, as Penn describes it, which was in 4 or 5 different sections, which allowed us to drill a hole about that big, down to the depth of about 5 metres maximum, with a tape measure. So we were getting actual physical measurements rather than theoretical ones from the satellite or submarine. And the only way to do it is to walk across the ice with your drill and drill a hole.
And what did you discover then at the end of this, as you looked at the findings? I mean, what hints did you get from it about how the way the world is going?
Well, like all these things, it's hugely complex, which is not what people want to really hear. They want to hear the top line answer, and that's not what we were really there to do. All we were doing was gathering information to pass on to our scientific partners. So we have people like NASA and the US Navy, the Met Office here in the UK, University of Cambridge, University College London, and so on. And they're now looking at the data. What we can tell you, and we told them, was that on the selected route that they gave us as being the most useful route for science, they had thought that we would come across a good mix of the older, thicker ice alongside the younger, thinner ice. What we actually found was that less than 1% of the distance that we covered had this older, thicker ice. Not a good mix. Very much skewed towards the thinner ice. The average thickness was 1 metre 77 centimetres. So, and they'd be expecting this older, thicker ice of 3 metres thick or more. So it does raise quite an interesting question, and it very much sort of illustrates the problems that scientists have. They're having to use a lot of estimates to feed into their models to project what the current status of the sea ice is, and obviously also what's going to happen to it in the future, with not enough hard information gathered at the surface. And it raises some interesting questions. Well, where is this older, thicker ice? I mean, has it melted? Has it, and has it been melted from the warmer air, essentially? Has it been warmed, melted from the top down? Or has it been melted from warmer waters from the bottom up? Or has it simply been moved physically by surface currents or surface winds? And that's just at the most crude level what may have happened to it. Very complex, needs more investigation.
Fascinating. What are you going to do, both of you, next? Are you going to do more of this sort of... Do you think of yourselves, all of you actually, as explorers or scientists? Anne?
Never, not scientists. I think of myself as an explorer that can help the scientific community. So I am not a scientist, but if what I do, which is go out and do very hard expeditions on sea ice, can help scientists, then that makes me feel that I have a use. And for me, I would love to build on what we've done already, because it is important work and it affects us all, and to be able to go on and make more of it and help the scientists.
What would you like to do next, Martin?
Well, if you'd asked me the question in week 1 of the expedition, I would say I'm never, ever going back. But we've been back a couple of days now, and I'd love to go back and carry on where we left off.
You would like to go back? Do you want to do more expeditions?
Yeah, because I think we're all hardwired to do this sort of thing. It's what we do. So it's probably not much of a question mark about it in our minds. I think the thing is that what people perhaps don't realise is that the sea ice on the top of our planet, it provides a protective heat shield from all the sun's energy that comes in the spring, summers and autumns. And if that becomes a seasonal feature only, as opposed to this sort of fairly permanent feature, then the upper layers of the ocean are going to warm up. They'll absorb much more energy, because you take away this white shiny lid, and the oceans will warm up in that region, and when the oceans warm, they expand. Most of global sea level rise at the moment is not because glaciers and ice sheets and so on have been melting, putting fresh new water into the ocean and up it goes. It's simply the upper ocean is expanding and therefore rising. So that's going to accelerate the sea level process, and of course you get a habitat loss. Lots of animals depend from the very start of the food chain to the end of the food chain on the existence of sea ice. That's their scene, that's their world, that's what they need. So you can imagine sort of fairly catastrophic sort of extinctions or reductions of animal life up there. And lastly, of course, weather patterns are going to change around the world. We don't really understand how they're going to change, but they are going to change. And that comes right down to sort of water supply.
Well, thank you all for being here. We want you to come back with the next great expedition. You've proved once again that the pen is mightier than the sword. All right, after the break, the latest on Sri Lanka.